Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Play This, Not That. I'm Keith. In this series, we're going to be going over games that I don't really care for and what I would suggest you play instead. And in this video, we are going to be talking about the incredibly successful Terraria, and if you, like me, are one of the strange few who don't actually like Terraria, why you might actually enjoy Starbound instead. So let's get right into it. Now, if you stand 5 feet back and squint, both games are pretty similar, right? They both are platformers, side-scrollers, pixel art, survival crafty kind of games, so they're in the same vein, but there are some differences, and so you might really prefer one to the other. One of the big differences between Terraria and Starbound is that I felt like there was more game in Terraria, but the stuff I was doing in Starbound I was having more fun with. So, as an example, there's a few of these. First off, with the base building, there's more base parts in Terraria, but I enjoyed base building in Starbound more because the things that I was finding, like for example seeds for farming, I found like was making a bigger impact on my character than all the stuff I was finding in Terraria. Another idea of that is the weapons, right? So there was many more weapons in Terraria, but every time I found a weapon in Starbound, almost every time I started using it because it kept making my character more and more powerful. Another example of this is the bosses. There are many more bosses in Terraria, but a lot of the bosses feel kind of cheap. They can fly directly through the ground. If, let's say you're mining and you're underground, they can fly through the ground at you and so forth, where I found a lot more bosses in Starbound to be more like I was fighting something in like a Super Mario game or in a 2D Dark Souls. It felt more like a platformer and less like a cheap Flash game. I don't mean to talk down to Terraria, but that's kind of how I felt. I felt like these bosses felt kind of cheap and kind of slapped on, where the bosses in Starbound, there is way less of them, but it felt more like a grown-up Dark Souls, 2D Dark Souls kind of game, and I really liked that. So I enjoyed the boss fights more, I enjoyed the crafting more, and I enjoyed the weapons more in Starbound versus all of the things that I found in Terraria. A couple other things that are specific to Starbound which I really liked. First off, there was mechs that you could create and customize, and then you could pilot these large mechs and use them in certain missions, which I really, really liked. It's just a nice little twist to gameplay. And also, there were different planets that you could land on in Starbound, and there are different biomes in Terraria, so that's not unique, but what I did like is to visit these particular planets, you had to craft certain items to visit them safely. So again, it gave me another sort of hurdle to climb over, which I really liked in Starbound. It kind of kept me on this fun crafting loop of, oh, I need these things to craft this item so I can visit this planet. So it kept sort of giving me new things to achieve, which I really, really enjoyed. Another thing that I really appreciated about Starbound is it had a more concrete story, and I am, first of all, not a story gamer, nor am I suggesting that you're going to put down The Last of Us and start playing Starbound. But what this story gave me was a sort of purpose in something to march towards versus being completely open-ended. For me, Terraria is a game that's real easy to put down, and I liked the fact that I was working towards something in Starbound. And again, I'm not saying I'm going to tell my wife to stop binging Game of Thrones and start playing Starbound, but with this sort of sense of direction, it kept me going on a path, which again, I really appreciate in these games. I'm not someone who likes to play, like as an example, Ark Survival, because that story is so loose. It's, again, real easy to put down. I prefer The Forest because I have something to achieve in that game. And that kind of also impacts how I feel about Terraria versus Starbound. If you're someone who likes multiplayer, there is another really great reason to play Starbound. So first, let me explain in both games, if you're playing single player and you build a nice base, and then you go and join your buddy's game, that base will be gone. And of course, right, the base is saved locally. This is actually how Starbound works as well, but Starbound also gives you a spaceship, and you can build on your spaceship just like you can build a base. So you can farm on your spaceship, you can craft on your spaceship, and you can of course use your spaceship as inventory. What this allowed me to do is play locally. Then when my wife wanted to play, I could join her. And then also when my buddies wanted to play, I could join them, and I kept all of my progress. So if you're someone that has interest in playing locally and multiplayer with the same character, then I highly recommend Starbound, because that's great. And if you need more people to play with, you should probably join my Discord server. I'll leave a link in this description. The last thing I'd like to bring up is I felt like Starbound requires less of your time, which as an older gamer with a job and kids and a family and so forth, I really liked. I could absolutely see a younger audience or people with just tons of time really loving the depth of Terraria. But for me, I really liked sitting down for 2 hours and really feeling like I made an impact and really felt like I was getting somewhere, and Starbound kept giving that to me. So another thing to keep in mind, if you're someone with a ton of time, you might love Terraria. As someone who is really happy when he gets 3 hours to game in a single day, Starbound was way more my speed. So wrapping this up, if you are someone that likes unique boss battles that are a little more like Dark Souls or a platformer like a Super Mario Brothers, that kind of thing, think Super Mario Brothers with a gun, you might like Starbound more. Also, if you are bouncing from single player to multiplayer to other multiplayer back to single player, Starbound has some unique advantages. And last but not least, if you're someone that just doesn't have a lot of time, Starbound might be amazing for you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, if you like Terraria, you're not alone. I'm the weird one here, so I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying for certain people, Starbound might be the game for you. Let me know what you think, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.